let's just dive right in. So let me just get my camera on so you guys can see my face. So hi, everyone. Hope everyone's doing good. Kicking off 2024. I'm really excited to join all of you for the 2024 planning session workshop. I'm really excited about this. And so with that said, I always get this question a lot with the sessions that I host. Why are we even doing this session? I mean, of course, it's a very popular topic, especially when we start into the new year, making sure that you're on the right page and you want to know where you're at and planning effectively. But several times a year, on my newsletter and in my community, I ask questions like, just finding out how people are doing throughout the year. And a lot of times I get questions like, Christine, how do you launch your personal brand? How do you scale to six figures? How do you manage your business? How did you get your team? How did you plan for a launch? All different types of questions. And this is the first year that I'm actually hosting a planning workshop. I usually do these privately with my teams internally. And so I said, what the hell? Why don't I just, give you guys behind the scenes, my planning process, how I get things done, and how I make sure that I come into a new year effectively with purpose on purpose, right? And so I'm really excited to share some of these things with you. So without further ado, I want to formally introduce myself. For those of you, if this is your first time engaging with me, my name is Christine and Tim. I'm the founder and CEO of the global startup ecosystem. Many people know me as a serial entrepreneur. I've built and scaled multiple six-figure businesses. I'm also a tech ecosystem builder. I've been building tech ecosystems across emerging markets around the world. I'm also a wife. I'm a mother of four beautiful kids, and I'm a global speaker. I speak at dozens of conferences on an annual basis, and I've been featured in a lot of notable networks and lists and programs and initiatives for the work that I do. But in today's capacity, I'm not coming to you as a founder of one entity or a title of a mother or wife or anything. I'm sharing with you behind the scenes of how I even manifest all of these activities in my life. And hopefully this could be useful to you in your journey of fulfillment and success as we kick off the year and beyond. So first and foremost, let's start with a bit of introductions because I want to make sure we're on the right page here, right? I want to make sure I have the right people in the room. So if you are an entrepreneur, a small business owner, a content creator, career professional, corporate professional, a plumber, a psychologist, whatever your background or creed, planning is for everyone. Okay. No matter where you're coming in from, you need to get things done. You want to get things effectively. So this conversation is very pertinent to anyone in the room. And I'm here to share that you are in the right place. So thank you for joining me on this session. And so taking a step back, last year, I'm sure when you watched the headlines, it was crazy, right? It seemed like the world was coming to the very end. I mean, the headlines of like the economic recession, inflation, job losses, wars, disruption, just technology and the pace of change. I mean, last year was really, for many people, a very tough year. There was a lot going on. But regardless of the headlines and what you've seen, there's a reason why many of you want to start on a high note for this year, right? And so I tend to ask, why are you here? So raising your hand if this is you, right? Some of you might be saying, look, I'm here because I want to be ready for what's ahead, right? If that's you, give me a shout out on the thread. Some of you are saying, hey, I have certain fears regarding the future of my business, the future of my career. So I'm here to, make things work, make things happen. So if that's you, raise your hand, let me know. And some of you are like, look, I know that there are ways to get through this economic downturn, but I don't know where to start. Like, how do I begin? How do I plan? How do I steal the strategies that everyone, it seems like, is talking about on the internet of like, building these mega businesses, mega brands? Like, how are they doing it? What's the background strategy around all of this? Well, regardless of your reasons for being here, one thing that I always share with people that contrary to popular belief, this is actually a golden opportunity time for you, no matter where you are in your personal life, in your career growth. Anytime there's a recession, political unrest, or rapid technological change, these are the best times for growth and opportunity because where there's a shift and change, there's areas for opportunity, right? And so I want to make sure your mind frame is excited for what's ahead and not scared of what's ahead, because you might be able to, hopefully, by leveraging this content and this conversation we're about to have about planning for 2024 and beyond, you're able to leverage this workshop to really accelerate yourself forward and leverage technology. Because last year was definitely a year for AI. Everyone was talking about artificial intelligence. The year before was all about ChatGPT. 2020, during the pandemic, we all went digital as a society. Our life will never go back to 2019. Pre-2019 is not happening. So if you have a nostalgia for pre-pandemic, let it go, toss it in the trash, and move on. We got to step into a new age. You have to step into a new existence, a new you, and technology is going to be at the forefront of how you step in to what you're going to do going forward within your career, within your life goals, etc. Right? And so I want to make sure that you're aware that you can thrive in this new economy for sure. You can create new growth opportunities, and you definitely can create the future that you want, as long as you plan ahead and really keep that kind of calmness in your heart that you will be prepared for it if you take the right steps, right? And so with that said, I always share with people, when we're thinking about transitions, thinking about new beginnings, new starts, refresh, a reset, what side of history do you want to be on, right? Where do you want to be? Where do you see yourself in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years? And the winning side is for movers, shakers, doers. You got to really switch your mind frame around not just planning for what's ahead, but actually executing on some of the action steps we're going to be talking about today. So hopefully you're ready to start, you're ready to do, you're ready to create, because this is going to be very, very helpful to you as we move forward. And so personally, in looking at my background experiences and the lifestyle that I've lived over the past decade, I speak at global conferences. I meet with thousands of people on an annual basis. So you can imagine the different inputs I'm getting on, corporate strategy, government strategy, individual life planning strategy from different people that I interact with through my social media, my newsletters, the events that I create, the events that I'm invited to speak at. I have seen a lot over the past couple of years. And of course, I've been recognized for the work that I do. So I've manifested a lot of these goals that I'm going to share with you, to the point that people recognize me for the work that I've done. And I've also monetized my experiences, right? Over the past decade, many of you have seen me launch businesses, scale programs, start initiatives, grow initiatives, work with celebrities, work with governments, and monetize that entire journey to make sure that I live the life that I want, right? And I say this to say that the core secret of planning success, if there's anything that you take away from this session, is making sure that you know that the core secret of planning success is having an end goal. I can't stress how frustrating it is to watch people every single year make New Year's resolutions, make new goals, start the year ready to go, but you have a short-term mind frame because you're only thinking about the next 12 months. Short-term goals lead to short-term outcomes. You're trying to plan into the future. How long do you want to live in this world? Are you going to be 50, 70, 80, 90? Are you going to live to be a century? How are you looking at what you're doing today to manifest the goals and aspirations you want to experience at the end of your life cycle, right? So you got to have an end goal in mind. And that starts with defining who you want to become, right? A lot of you on this call, because you're trying to plan, oh, my business, oh, this career shift. But you got to think bigger than that. You got to go beyond that. You got to look at it. Where do you picture yourself to be? And how do you define that? How do you create a space for yourself to grow and step into who you want to become? And I always share people, the core of that is building a strong personal brand. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in a digital first society, whether you like it or not. If you do not have a strong personal brand that people could immediately resonate with, you are going to struggle in this new economy. You're going to really have a lot of friction trying to grow your business, and you're going to have a lot of setbacks trying to build new relationships and build new networks without a strong personal brand. Now, let me clarify. I'm not going to go on my soapbox about personal branding, because this is not a personal branding session. I want to preface that. But I want to make sure it's in the back of your mind that you understand the core goal is, again, having an end goal in mind. And achieving that end goal means building your personal brand today, tomorrow, right now, to make sure that you are manifesting your value and creating that value over time. So that way, anything that you put out there into the universe will be successful because you have a core framework of who you are that people want to tap into and people want to work with. So let's parking lot this and make sure we get back to this at another time. So by having a core personal brand, the way you plan and the way you execute changes because you go from doing a to-do list to really creating action experiences that helps you get better and better at finding yourself and building for the future, right? And so I want to preface this conversation by saying that today will feel a little different, right? So what I would like you to do is be open, be bold. Please, I'm asking you kindly, be honest with yourself. If you're doing this, session with other people around, please go back to the drawing board and be honest with yourself. So that way we can begin properly with the right framework. So are we ready? Want to get some shout outs on the thread? Are we ready to begin? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, awesome. So let's get started. So the agenda for today, in terms of this planning workshop, is going to begin with, first and foremost, kicking off with an annual review. Then we're going to transition to my goal setting strategies. And then I'm going to share with you my ultimate planning 3-bucket strategy, what I do every single year to manifest my goals. Okay. Now, definitely take a screenshot of this. Maybe you want to go back to the, your notes, really go over the content here, but I want to make sure that we all are on the same page of what we're going to cover today during today's session. Okay. So let's start with our annual review. You cannot kick off the year without reflecting on what you've done last year and whether it was effective, what were the goals, what were the challenges, what did you accomplish? And so when I kick off any planning process with me and my team, I first do it privately by myself before I do business planning review with my team. So that way I'm with my own thoughts, I'm able to reflect organically before taking new inputs from my teams. And by the way, I have kind of like 3 sets of business planning reviews. I have one with myself, I have one with my family, and even my kids are at this session. And my youngest child is like 1, right? They're in the room to feel and embrace that setting, right? And of course, my businesses, we also have annual reviews. So very, very crucial that you have annual review sessions, right? And that year in review encompasses several different things. That encompasses, first and foremost, I always tell people, go back to your calendar, go back to your notebooks, go back to, maybe your Google Calendar, whatever you use to write notes about your day-to-day activity, go back to that and review. What have you done? Because a lot of times after a year, you forget all the things that's happened, all the things that you've done, from the small daily activations to the big projects. Go back to your calendar. Now, I actually have a black book for every single year. My black book has it's kind of like my internal journal, my daily to-do list, my daily planner, right? Everything is in that black book. So for me, I've been very organized where every single year I even have a library section of all the calendar years going back about good 6 to 7 years now, right? And it's really, really great because sometimes I could go back to my file and look at what did I do in 2021 or 2019. It's a really great way of synthesizing a lot of things together. So I challenge you to first go back to your calendar. And another great thing, because we live in a digital society where we're constantly taking pictures, videos, and photos, I go through my phone and I start by month. I go through January, what happened, February, March. And it's not only giving me a sense of nostalgia, it also helps me remember and trigger activations that I've experienced in the past year, right? And so definitely do that review. And then for those of you who have a paper or pen, do this activity to help you kind of synthesize the top learning points and takeaway from that year. So this is a session activity I would love for you guys to take, 60 seconds to do right now, which is first and foremost, start doing a mind map where you look at your daily activations from the past couple of months and you write 10 to 20 things that you did last year. All right. Once you write those down, please start writing that down right now. Whatever comes to mind, just write it down. Then you're going to write and circle what are the 3 things that you're most proud of. Out of those 10 to 20 things, what are the 3 things you are most proud of? And keep in mind, when it comes to what you're proud of, It has nothing to do with what looks good on paper, like, what your mother or your father or your parents or your family think of. This is a personal, introspective moment for yourself. So be honest with yourself. It could be, I started cooking on a daily basis, right? It could be, I started taking more walks, right? It could be, I made the cover of Forbes magazine. Again, it could be small, it could be big, whatever it is. Circle the three things out of those 10 to 20 that you are most proud of. Then you're going to write down three things that you wish you did or that you didn't accomplish, right? Kind of like regrets in a sense. And then you're going to transition and review your entire notes and look at what was your routine, because in those routines, you can find what habits help you achieve the three things that you're most proud of, and what habits prohibited you from accomplishing the three things that you wanted to do last year, okay? By doing this exercise, you're able to reflect on takeaway and challenges and lessons learned from last year. So that way you're not doomed to repeat the same mistakes this year, right? So I'm gonna give you guys 30 seconds to just write this out before we move on to the next part. All right, sounds good. Now, pencil that. We'll come back to this at another time. So with that said, I just want to end that session by saying that, look, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. A lot of times when we're in the thick of things, we are so hell bent and doing so many different activities, we get too busy trying to connect the dots and see, okay, when I did this, how did it affect this? And when I did this, how did it affect this, right? And so by doing that activity of mind mapping all the activities that you did, identifying the three things that made you proud and the three things that you're trying to work on, it helps you set the right goals for 2024. Okay. So now we're going to transition to goal setting. And before I kick off, I want to take 10 seconds to ask you all, you can share it on the chat feed. How do you set goals today? Or do you even set goals? Right on the chat feed. So that way we can share with the rest of the group as well. How do you set goals? What is your process of setting goals as of today? I'm going to give you about 10 seconds to do that. Couple more seconds. So some people say they reflect and execute. They do to-do lists. Some people say they do freeform thinking. Guys, look at all these different ways that people are setting goals. Some say they create vision boards. I reflect on what I want my life to look like. So that's a lot of visualization there. A couple more seconds before we transition, because I want to make sure that you guys are starting with some of the ways that people have done it before to see if this is the right fit for you as we go into like how other people have done it. Okay. So with that said, right, I think another person just shared. Let me make sure I read that one out as well. I set a goal by my first setting my objective, then I create a list of what to do with the targets. Okay, nice. So we have different ways of goal setting. So I heard vision boards, visualization, to-do list, right? But the point of this is trying to figure out, okay, how do you optimize your process and how do you figure out a process that works for you intrinsically, right? And so first things first, before we even get into goal setting, you got to make sure you're in the right mind frame to set the right goals, right? Because a lot of times, again, you don't want to get into a to-do list mentality when it comes to planning and execution, right? And so here are some 3 tips that I've found very useful in my life that's helped me change and grow over the years and really help prepare my mental foundation, because we are human beings at the end of the day, and we are influenced by the people around us. We are influenced by our colleagues, our networks, our activations in the home and outside. So here are some 3 tips to help you get in the right mind frame for goal settings as you move forward. The first tip I would share is optimize your time. And what I mean by that is if you do not have a habit of doing a daily agenda, please do that now, right? Because and let me tell you something, my kids, I started them at the age of 5. My oldest is 7. My second is 5. My next one is 3. And my last one is 1 year old. So I'm a mother of 4. So I will tell you, in this household, every single morning, they get ready for school and they write down their agenda. 5 years old is when I start them. So my second is already starting her agenda from last year, right? 5. At the age of 5, she is writing a daily agenda, right? Where she sets her intention. She gets up for breakfast. This is the time. She sets her chores. She goes to school. She comes back every single afternoon. She does her homework. She picks the activities that she wants to do. If a 5-year-old could do it, you could do it as well, right? And when I talk about agenda, these are things that is non-negotiable that you want to make sure that you get done on a daily basis, because that affects your routines. And having a strong routine affects your habits and helps you create healthy new ones. So it starts with you programming yourself with daily agendas, which automatically triggers a routine response, which indirectly creates healthy habits over time. So the first tip I will say is make sure to optimize your time. The next thing I will share, right, is that you need to make sure to bucket and segment your relationships, optimize your relationships. I am very, 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 very big on energy. If someone is not good for my energy, I don't care if they're family. I bucket and segment them into time buckets so that way they're not draining me from accomplishing the goals that I want to accomplish. It's very, very crucial that you are honest with yourself. What are your relationships, both from a family perspective, career perspective? The workplace, who you hang out at the workplace also affects your relationship. So I optimize my relationships on a regular basis. I look at, who has been very, and not beneficial because nothing needs to be transactional, but at the very least, who has been positive, reinforce it, who has been great growth points for me, and I make sure to segment them in the right areas. And last but not least, there's the relationships that you manage and the relationships that you create on a regular basis. Because as human beings, you need to always be creating new relationships and managing past relationships as well. I actually have a spreadsheet where I manage 100 people outside of my family that I consistently connect with at least 2 to 3 times a year. And those 3 times usually cover first of the year, end of the year. So Happy New Year messages, season holiday messages, and on their birthdays. Okay. If I choose to engage with them beyond those 3 touch points, even better. But at least I stay top of mind because I'm engaging with them during warm, exciting milestone moments in people's lives, which is at the beginning of the year, the end of the year, and during the milestones in their personal life, which is their birthday. I avoid people who feel that they need to be entitled to my time, entitled to asking much of me and not giving anything in return in terms of energy, positivity, and growth. And so I definitely share with people that optimize your network by creating a spreadsheet, creating a document to engage with people. And you'll be surprised that engaging with 100 people 3 times a year, 2 to 3 times a year, is actually not difficult because I bucket my time. New Year's resolution, I spend like literally 2 hours just following up with people. Some of them are phone calls, some of them are messages, some of them are emails, some of them are texts. But the point is, you could do that 3 times a year to optimize your network. And in that 100, 8 of them are usually career professionals that I've built a relationship with over the past 10 to 20 years since college. And a good 20 of them are new people that I want to include in my network and become more relationship driven with them to grow that experience with them. So that's how I optimize my network. So with that said, once I'm in the right mind frame, now I can go into goal review. And here's one major thing that I feel that I do differently than others is when I do my goal review, a lot of times every single year, people try to start new things, new ambitions, new areas of growth, but you're not consistent. One thing that people joke about in the political space, no matter what political side you're on, we all know every time a government changes, it causes a shift. So we all know not keeping to a core tenet of laws, ideas, or spectrums actually negates and sometimes takes away from country's progression, right? You can see that at a country national level. You can see that also at a global level when there's always a reset. It's the same for individuals. So I actually have 10 laws that I strictly adhere to every single year when it comes to my goal review. I don't go outside of these areas because these are fundamental areas that help me grow and manifest my goals and my aspirations. So I start those 10 laws with my core 7 non-negotiables, right? These are 7 areas that I make sure to accomplish 7 key goals in those 7 areas. I do not play around with my core 7. And then I have 3 growth areas every single year that I tap into to pretty much make me feel alive, right? Make me feel that I'm not just doing the work of just doing things because I have to do it, but I'm doing things that make me happy, make me fulfill, make me grow. Because as human beings, the biggest thing to do is like try to accomplish success in the core 7, but not try to grow yourself in the core 3 areas. I'm going to share those 10 laws with you right now. Starting with my core 7, again, I have 10 areas of my life, that goals that I always try to accomplish on a regular basis. And the core 7 areas that I do not negotiate with at all: family goals, relationship goals, health goals, wealth goals, career goals, passion goals, which is pretty much hobbies, and time management and productivity. I'm going to go over these with you. And I have a deep dive session on this in my personal branding accelerator program. But for the sake of this workshop, I want to just give you a quick overview of these core 7 and how I actually set goals and objectives in these 7 areas to feel fulfilled. Starting with family. Now, there's the family you're born into and the family you create. We all are born to a family. No matter what it is, you always have to make sure you have a key goal within that family network that you are born into and that you create. So for me personally, balancing being a mother and a wife, creating my own family with 4 kids, right? But also staying in touch with my parents, my siblings. It's a balance. So one thing that I've done is like last year, which was phenomenal for me. Last year, I created a goal to create more experiences with my family that I was born into. So I did like, a vacation with my family, right? I also invited my baby brother to come intern at my company at our Ghana, Africa office, right? Which was a big milestone for me. Very emotional experience to see my younger brother working at my company for a whole summer, interning and growing and building on that, and coming back to my mom, flying back to the States and show my mom albums and photos and videos of his experience working at my organization, and seeing her get emotional and having a family retreat doing that. So that was something that really was a great family goal and milestone for us as a family. An extension to that, many of you guys know that I planned out with my husband growing our family over the past decade, right? So if you notice, our children are 2 years apart, 7, 5, 3, and 1. We planned that. So do we want another child? Where do you want to live? Where do you want to grow? Do you want to attempt at homeschooling? So these family goals, we create one major goal and sub goals for that category. Now, relationships is a second big one. It's a priority. It's one that's highly dysfunctional in today's society. And I will share that a lot of people are going through a lot in their relationship goals, but you got to prioritize it in order to make sure that you accomplish the goals in relationships. And for me, because I'm married, those relationship goals surround like, how am I spending time with my husband? How are we growing as a couple outside of our family goals and aspirations? So that could be just like, one thing that we did last year and that we do on a regular years. We always have date nights, right? We always have private one-on-one sessions. We started swimming together on literally like 4 times a week last year, right? Small little relationship goals that we do to make sure that we're manifesting time together and growing together and building together and almost like learning new things about each other. Like, even though I've been married to my husband for over a decade, I feel like I'm still learning new things because we're still having these relationship goals. So what relationship goals are you doing with your significant others, with your friends, with people that you care about? Priority, priority, priority. Health and wellness, a big one. I think a lot of people are now diving into the mental health space and making goals in that. And for me, my health goal was, because I struggled with, get into the gym, because I've always been someone who tried to eat healthy because I cook every day. So I really do well with trying to be really health conscious. But losing weight after my 4th child was really difficult, and all the different diet scams just did not work for me. So I got into a discipline routine where I just make sure that if I could take 10 minutes every single day to do pretty much stretch exercises, basic, pelvic floor exercises, will that help me upgrade my wellness? And also doing smoothie shakes transform my world. I could do a separate session if you're excited about this, about health, herbs, and wellness. I could do a deep dive into that at another time. Transform my entire year in terms of my health, right? And so that was one goal where I said I want to make sure I accomplish this goal, and now it's a habit. Wealth and finance, one major goal that we had is making sure that we are diversified into different financial instruments. So whether that's being just open the account and funding the account, those things were a big wealth goal for us last year, and diving more into real estate, right? Career goals. Last year, I went on maternity leave. So for the first time, I had a career goal where I wanted to make sure that I could have my business self-sustain itself without my daily intervention. I accomplished that goal last year, and I can't stress to you how happy that made me feel, because that told me that this business will be able to continue forward even if I'm not there every single day. And that was a huge thing, to go on maternity leave and still be able to generate income through my main business and through my passive businesses. Huge career growth for me, because as an entrepreneur, this was a big deal, a huge milestone for me. So this was one major goal that I had in the career bucket. Passion goals. Hobbies, I got into farming. And if you looked at my LinkedIn, I'm sharing a series, 100 different throwback moments of my farming journey in 2023. Huge passion goal to get into farming. And it turned into, by the way, a business. And I could talk about this at another time. But it was great to get into the hobby of something that I've always wanted to get into, which is farming, right? So a huge passion goal. And time management, productivity, this was a big one, because I think we should always prioritize time management skills and productivity. So I always take the time, like, okay, how am I optimizing myself? So sometimes that means, learning new skills, learning new tools, really optimizing how I engage with people. So one major goal last year was not doing anything on Mondays and Fridays. So those times were either for errands and family focal time periods. Accomplish that. Best thing, and it became a habit. Love that major goal. I will follow that through in the rest of my life, right? So when people reach out to me and say, hey, I want to engage with you on Monday, not happening. It's part of my goals. That's what it is, because Mondays is usually a time to reflect, reset, and kick off your week. So these are my core 7 areas of importance in my life that I always create new goals every year to grow and manifest big, big dreams and big, big ideas, small and big, in these areas. Now, shifting to my growth 3 areas, I'm not sure how you guys will react to this, but this is a little bit different, right? Because I know a lot of people don't think about these things, but these are the 3 areas that make me feel alive, make me feel like I'm living my best life, even though they're not major things, but they really make me feel like I'm not just living to die, I'm really living to thrive, right? And so one is my dream parking lots, because life gets crazy. Things happen. I've had how many kids, right? And sometimes time slips away. And so I make sure to not let go of the dreams that I like, to big or small, and I put them in a parking lot. So I write them down. I have a dream parking lot book where all the different random ideas that come to me, if I can't get to it in that year, in that moment, when I have new opportunities to review my goals, review my plans every single year, I can add them and remove them from the parking lot and manifest them. So for example, this year, one of my parking lot dreams is to launch a women's empowerment initiative that I've been working on the past couple of years. And I'm launching the Her Future Project this year, right? This is a postponed endeavor that I've been holding back from for 5 years, but I've now put in place to get ready for launching in this year, right? So dream parking lots are really great to tap into. And I can't even share with you how excited it is to be able to tap into that every year, because it's kind of like a goodie jar of things that came to your mind that you kind of postpone for whatever reason, both good, bad, and ugly, that you want to tap back into. And it brings a different side of you for the year. The next one is my bucket list. I don't care if you guys think this is silly. I think everyone should have a bucket list. If you do not have a bucket list, do it. 100 things that you want to do before you're gone. It could be, and for me, in my bucket list, I have skydiving, traveling to at least 100 countries, shark diving, many of which I've already accomplished. Great thing. I usually, again, I pick one of those things to do every single year. Sometimes I do 2 to 3, but I try to make sure I accomplish the bucket list goals as well. And the last one, which is by far one of my favorites, is opportunity experiments, like 100 experiments that we want to do. And for me, one of my experiments last year was actually around snail farming, right? Where I was trying to experiment how to, deal with, how to start snail farming, get into snail farming. And it's been an amazing opportunity for me to experiment in that area. And again, these might be random to other people hearing this, but for me, it was a big deal. So going back to summarizing, these 10 areas are my goal setting core areas. So the core 7 and the 3 growth areas. Now, how I transition that into now putting them into actual goals, where steps where I'm going to execute on. There's 3 formats that you can do. And many of you articulate 2 of those formats. So one that people do a lot nowadays is a vision board. So they put the areas of vision that they want to create for themselves. They write it down and they put them into images, videos, and formats. A lot of people use Pinterest to do vision boards. I actually go through this exercise and do it. The second format that I also do is the 2024 top goals. And the goal areas that I look at is like my health goals, my personal goals, my financial goals, and write them down. So I go through these two formats immediately. However, what has been truly successful for me, after going through these preliminary steps of these formats, I actually have a new format that I've been doing over the past 2 years, since the pandemic, really, so 3 years now, that has really helped me feel balance in how I approach my life. Because one thing that I will say, I do so many things. I manage so many different businesses. I'm also family oriented. I've come to the consensus that you cannot do it all, right? Some things will have to give and some things will have to suffer a little bit for you to accomplish a certain bucket of goals, right? And I'll explain this a little bit more, but I'm going to be very raw and honest with you, because I think that I personally feel appalled that so many people lie on social media and not tell the truth behind how they actually plan and manifest their goals, and tell people this big dream like, yo, you could do it all, I do this vision board, and you find out they don't even have planning notes. They don't even do a lot of these activities that they think sounds good, but they don't really do. This is something that I actually do, and it's helped me have healthy conversations with my husband, have more long-term planning thinking with my family, and have really regimented and tempered goal setting strategies for my businesses and my personal ambitions, because we all have egos. We all have personal ambitions sometimes, and I call them your vain goals. And it's okay to have vain goals, but you have to be honest with how those vain goals can interfere with your long-term goals as well. So let me dive into what I mean by this. So this is my 3-bucket planning process that helps me balance. And the 3 buckets, so those 10 areas that I talked about, I bucket them into personal health goals, business goals, and growth goals, right? So if I'm looking at my personal bucket, right, that has to do with health and wellness, family, love, and relationships. That buckets into everything that has to do with personal manifestation that makes me feel like I'm living a healthy, well-balanced lifestyle with my family and the people that I love and that I cherish in my life, right? These buckets are really crucial. But the one that a lot of people always talk about that gives people ego and identity and clout is the business goal. So that's my career strategy, my business strategy, my income strategy, right? So that's the second bucket. The third bucket is my growth bucket, right? That's all around planning and project management, productivity, and personal branding. So anytime I'm growing, so last year I did a lot in the growth and personal buckets, but business-wise, because I left everything automated to my team, kind of took a little bit of a downturn in the sense that I didn't prioritize my business bucket last year. I prioritized my personal and growth bucket last year. The year prior to that, I prioritized my business bucket a lot, but my personal bucket took a little bit of a nosedive, right? So I say all this to say that, balancing and being honest with yourself, like, look, I want to accomplish these 10 areas, and you could do great goals in those areas, but they got to be a winning bucket for you for the year. That bucket where it's just like, if I do this year, everything else, it matters that I did it, but this is going to make me happy at the end of the year. So you got to figure out which bucket matters to you the most this 2024 year season, and accomplish that bucket wholeheartedly, head first, and prioritize it. So that way you have the right balance moving forward, right? And so when I do this, when I look at these buckets, a lot of people probably know about the SMART goals framework, where you got to be specific, measurable, and action oriented, and time bound with your work, where you think about, okay, I want to be able to reach 6 figures. I want to, make more money this year. Okay. Specifically, what does that mean? Okay, I want to make 6 figures, 100,000. Okay, 100,000. How are you going to do that? Okay, I'm going to sell 3 digital projects. Okay, when are you going to execute on those digital projects? And how will you know those products are manifesting? What is the price point? So you get specific and measurable. As you start to break down your goals, you start to get really specific at how you want to do them, when you want to execute, and how you want to manifest them. What's been a new framework that I saw that another webinar that I joined in years ago that did a really great job of this is adding smarter goals, where you add exciting and relevant perspective to your goals. Because what that does is, like, we all have SMART goals, but if it's not exciting or relevant, it doesn't matter. So for example, me coming off maternity leave, there's certain goals that are SMART frameworks, but if I'm not taking into account that I'm breastfeeding, I'm just coming off maternity leave, that I physically am not going to have as much energy, I got to make sure it's relevant for the year, right? So there's certain things I'm not going to be having into real estate and construction last year, because obviously that was a big year where I'm coming off maternity leave and in a transition. If you're following me, this is something that is really important, that you do these goals in a way that manifests properly and systematically. And so now that we've got that out of the way, now I'm going to show you how I plan these 3 buckets on a consistent basis. And we're going to dive headfirst into this, because this one is really the intense part of the planning workshop, where I'm going to share with you how I plan, again, in these specific buckets. And if you guys have any comments, hopefully you're writing things down, you're documenting. I want to give you guys 10 seconds to just write down, look at your notes, get a little bit of water break before we transition into planning. Any questions so far, send them on the chat feed, because those are the ones that I'm going to execute on immediately once we end the workshop. So everyone's cool. Any questions, comments, send them on the chat feed. I'm looking at them now, so that way, as soon as we dive in, I'll be able to tackle those questions immediately. All right, so let's go in. So when it comes to planning, I think that motivation and discipline is such a crucial part of really accomplishing certain goals. And I think a lot of these things require a core tenet, a core foundation to motivate you to execute. And I always ask people, when people are planning the year, like, why are you doing this? Like, why does any of these goals matter to you? And I find that everyone knows what goals they want to do, but don't know why they want to do it. And I think I'm almost laughing, because when things get tough in the year, when you don't have the right resources, the right networks, the right, toolkit to get any of these things done, how do you move forward? Right. And if you don't have a strong why, you won't. Right. And so I'll start by asking many of you guys, if you can write this down, why do you want to manifest the goals that you want to manifest next year? Right. What are you trying to accomplish? What's your core tenet? And a lot of people will find, once you figure out your why, for some reason, the universe opens up. And I can't really explain this holistically, but I've found in my life personally that every time I understood why I'm doing something, the how comes to me. That's the strategies and execution, and the what comes after, right? Because once you know why you're doing something, you find some reason, doors open up where you learn how to do it, and you know what to prioritize. Does that make sense? So you got to figure out why you want to do what you're doing, what's motivating you. So that way, when things get hard, as you execute in the how section of those goals, you know what to prioritize, right? And so I will challenge many of you to make sure that you learn and write down your why, write it down, put it on the wall. So that way, when things get challenging, wish you will, especially when you're trying to accomplish big goals, especially you're trying to set your year on a new wavelength, you understand that this is the core reason why I'm doing this. So for me personally, I want to leave a legacy behind that makes my family proud, especially my kids. So a lot of times what I realized, I could be the most accomplished person in the world, but if I don't have the right habits and right standards of existence, my kids will follow suit in the wrong direction. And I'll tell you, for those of you who are parents, you could tell your kids all day long how to do something. They watch what you do. So if you eat at a certain time frame, they're going to do it the same way. If you are constantly, going to work and you don't like to prioritize relationships, they will do the same thing, right? And so you got to really think about, okay, why are you doing this? And really manifest that in a way that makes you happy and fulfilled. And one quote that I love that, Jim Hollick was posting on Instagram is, you don't lose when you fail, you lose when you don't get back up. Right. And so many of you guys are going to have some challenging roadblocks as you try to execute on some of the goals that you're setting forward. But failing is not the problem, it's how you get back up. And that's why the why is a core foundation that you need to get to that point. Right. So now going back to the 3 bucket strategy that I share with you, that the 3 bucket areas where I focus my goal planning sessions every single year, let's kick off with the personal side. Okay. So on a personal standpoint, when I look at personal, I'm looking at health and wellness, my family and my love and relationships. And one application I look at is like, I look at the dimensions of wellness, right? What areas of my life that I want to manifest happiness and excitements and engagements. And so I create goals around that. So for each one of those, I'm going to show you how I apply that. So everything I talk about, I'm going to show you how I apply it personally. So I shared with this earlier today that, for the health goal, I said that, I want to prioritize a 15-minute daily routine with 5 core moves. And those 5 core moves include 5 easy stretches that honestly, like if I don't do them, it's such a waste of my time because it's crazy. Like, how can you not do these 5 basic moves? And these moves are stretches, knee highs, right? Shoulder pad stretches. It's very easy things that I can do that really help transform my health routine, but also was really good in disciplining me and making something different for my body and my wellness, right? And of course, small wins help you get really excited and motivated for other big wins down the line. So that's how I applied for my planning process for my health. Family wise, remember I said like, look, there's the family you're born into and the family that you create. Balancing my relationship with my family back home was really crazy. So what I did is like every Sunday, I made a routine to call my family every Sunday. And daily, like for example, family, I prioritize not checking my phone, really creating an evening block and no work sessions on Mondays or Fridays. Completely transform how I did things. When love and relationships, dating and movie nights for 2, we prioritize making that on a weekly basis. And for my friends, making sure I check in with my friends on a weekly basis as well, right? And so this is how I planned these 3 areas. If you notice, it seems so simple, but this is actually hard for people to do, where you write down those 3 areas and you apply and write down the goals. So if you notice how targeted my goals were for each session, health 15 minutes daily, right? Family, call every Sunday, a weekly goal right there. Dating, movie nights every week, right? Very simple exercises, but I accomplished my goal for that section, right? Of course, when it comes to these sessions, one thing that I'll also do to track it, I think tracking is a great way to do this. And for those of you who are my personal branding accelerator program, you have access to all these templates and worksheets. But I have a health planner, a wealth planner, and a growth goal tracker where I track, how am I eating, how am I exercising, how am I moving, and it's been very helpful in tracking these core tenet areas that I'm going to talk. So that was my health area that I shared with you some insights up to how I'm able to execute on the planning of that. So now let's dive into business. Okay. So that's my personal bucket. See how simple that was? That was like 5 minutes, but it's something that 5 minute of planning and writing those simple goals. Again, simple goals is going to be your key activation points for this year, but it's changed me over the past couple of weeks, right? Over the past couple of months, over the past couple of years. Okay. So when it comes to business, one thing that I've realized with business that people need to be honest about is that when you go to networking functions, everyone always asks, the first thing they ask after your name is, what do you do? What's your line of work? What work do you do, right? And it becomes like a title competition about who's a CEO, who's a digital manager, who's a this, who's a that, what are your accomplishments, right? Don't get lost in that trap because a lot of these business and career goals all center around one key thing, right? It's all around how these career goals leading to you building a strategy in the career, business, and income field, right? And a lot of times when I see people's career planning strategies, one thing that I've done is I always have a well-balanced schedule of at least once a month. I do at least 2 to 3 webinars or educational activations to help my career. Right? Some months, maybe I might do 1, some months I might do 6, but I always try to make sure that at least once a month, I'm educating myself to make sure that I'm optimizing my career planning. Right? As far as business strategy, I have a whole session on this during my recession planning session workshop that you could sign up for after this workshop. But the point is that I bucketed the fact that business plan, when you're creating wealth, what you choose to do in your career and your business will impact your income strategy, right? So the application of that really is looking at my career. And actually, let me take a step back and see if you guys can look at what is your current career strategy right now and just share that on the chat feed. And I want to give you guys 10 seconds to write that. I would love to hear some feedback as to how people are doing. A few more seconds. Okay, so a couple more seconds. I see a couple of people are doing it. All right, so with that said, career strategy, how I apply that, so for example, a lot of you, maybe your career is you're working on an institution, maybe you're owner of a business or partner, etc. The way I apply my career strategy for one is like, okay, what's one goal that will help me optimize in this bucket? So one thing that I did last year for my career was, how do I create a system and processes where my business could operate without me while on maternity leave? And guess what I did? I went and I signed up for, I think, about a good like so many, like 22 or 23 different webinars around systems, operational workflow, SOPs, literally a lot of free sessions that I could find across the internet on YouTube. I took the time to really, the year prior, learn different webinars and start documenting the parts that made sense for me, right? Creating the SOPs, did a pilot before I went on maternity leave, and then let them apply it. That's a perfect example of me making a goal. Like, I want to make sure that this business can optimize without me. So how do I execute on a goal? I had to create systems and processes. And how do I create that system and processes? I had to learn it by doing these webinars and training sessions to make sure I execute on that, right? And that helped me accomplish that major goal last year, where while I was on maternity leave for 6 months, my business was able to operate, right? Business strategy. How do I operate my business strategy? Like, how do I manage my entrepreneurial endeavors? Again, I'll talk a little bit more about this later on, but how do I manage contracts? How do I manage incorporated companies, activations, right? The one thing that I did is this last year, what I did is, because I have multiple businesses, I created a dashboard on Asana and Trello, right? That helped me use project management templates to manage the multiple businesses. So every day I had a checklist where I could log into different dashboards and say, okay, this business is okay. This business needs help. This one needs to check in. This one needs, a reboot. This needs a rebrand, right? These things were helping me manage my entrepreneurial endeavors and really manifest a lot of great accomplishments and milestones throughout the year by having that checklist planning. And I'll share again a little bit more about that later on this session. And income, one goal that you need to get to is having at least 8 different streams of income required, preferably 60% passive. All the most wealthy people on the planet, they have at least 8 streams of income. So one goal that I started doing a couple of years ago is adding a new stream of income every single year. Last year, one new stream of income that I did, because I manage my businesses, and that keeps me really busy in the state of like managing multiple businesses as a serial entrepreneur, I never really took the time to really systemize and really put my experiences into a course. And for the first time, I created a digital course around my experiences, strategies. Pretty much I gave out all my secrets, right? And so the launch of my personal branding accelerator program. And that was an amazing experience, to be live with my entire community, to share them my secrets and strategies from managing my personal brand over the past decade. And by default, it added a new income streams, which is in the digital content space, right? So now to this day, people are still booking to have access to that personal branding accelerator program. Boom, I accomplished that one goal, adding another income stream to my income. Now, keep in mind, I've been doing digital products for several years, but this was another digital product in the product suites that I've created over the years, right? And so this is a direct application of having that career strategy, business strategy, and income strategy all wrapped into one when it comes to business planning, right? And so one session activity you could do is like, ask yourself 2 questions. Where are you at your stage of your life, right? Are you in transition or are you in growth? Because if you're in transition, you got a lot of learning to do. You got to make sure that you're experimenting. That's mean your income gain will be a little bit on the low side. But if you're in a growth stage, let's say you're at this point in your career and you're trying to get a promotion, then you need to know that, you need to put yourself out there. You need to build your personal brand. People at the organization need to be aware of not only the work that you do, but the value that you bring, right? So know what career stage you are in your life, and how do you make sure am I in transition or I'm in growth? Last year, I was in major transition, right? And so I had to make sure that I was manifesting activations and growing and learning and experimenting. So I did a lot of experimentation last year. If you're in the growth stage, you shouldn't be reading too much experiments. You got to really double down on what works and double down, double down, double down, right? And so these are the things that you need to think of when you're planning session activities around business planning. Now, finally, for those of you who are entrepreneurs on this call, I highly suggest that you sign up for my free masterclass session, how to recession proof your business with one digital product, where I talk about the 3 things I do to really scale my business and plan my business every single year. And that starts with 3 checklists. And if you don't have one, these are 3 checklists that every single business owner needs to have. One is your audit checklist, where I audit 10 areas of my business that need to like grow, like basic KPIs. All right. The second one is my strategist checklist. So how do I tap into AI? How do I tap into ChatGPT? How do I tap into partners, right? So my business strategy checklist and business execution checklist. And that really centers around my operational workflow, my SOPs, which is standards of procedures. These are things that you as a core business owner need to have. And I'm very grateful to my maternity leave because I was able to create these checklist items. So if you want more information on how to recession proof your business and really get these 3 to-do items done, check out the link on my website on how to sign up for this free masterclass to learn it. So with that, hopefully that was useful for those who are entrepreneurs. And the last bucket is income stream. So remember earlier I said that you need to have at least 8 income streams in your life to really not only manifest wealth and long-term income generation, but also be able to have a free-form lifestyle where you're able to do a lot of things. So last year I did a lot of experimentation. There's no way I couldn't do that. I would be able to do that if I didn't have multiple income streams to generate my lifestyle, right? So the first income stream that everyone's aware of is the earned income, right? That's when you're working for a job or a corporation, or if you're a business owner, what you pay yourself. This is the most basic of the basic. Where you want to, really dive into is like profit income, like, buying and selling, interest income. This is like when you're dealing with other type of income, like stocks, investments, residual income. Like this is one, like, those of you who are in real estate or brand deals, those are really great. Rental income, right? Capital gains. I have royalty income from a business case study that I did with Harvard back in 2015. And now we're in 2023, right? These are different areas. And so one thing that you could do is every single year, try to create something that creates a new income stream for you. And I do have a wealth planner that you could use that helps you think about your income, your fixed expenses, your bills, and recap how's the income coming in and how's income coming out. One thing that's happened to us in our family, we have literally been doubling our income every single year and really scaling very rapidly. And one thing that we learned the first time that we went from 6 figures to 7 figures is that, wow, having more money doesn't mean that you make more money, because a lot of times when you have more money come in, lifestyle creeps in and you start spending more. So we got to the point, it's not about how much we make, it's how much we keep. And how do we invest that capital? So 2 income strategies that you need to do is audit yourself. How many streams of incomes do you have today? And plan, what do you want to add this year? So for those of you, if you didn't have this in one of your goals for this year, what new income stream do you want to create this year for your life, and how do you manifest this? Okay. Again, I deep dive into wealth planning and strategies in my personal branding accelerator, where I walk through trackers on how you help you manifest multiple income streams, leverage your personal brand. And it literally is a lifestyle, because you could plan ahead how much money you're going to make at January and have checkpoints throughout the year. So, okay, August, where am I at? September, where am I at? December, did I accomplish it? Right. So really exciting to kind of gamify income generation, because it has been a wealth of knowledge for me to do this over the past couple of years. So I highly suggest that you get into this. Okay. So we've now covered the personal bucket, the business bucket. Let's get into the last bucket, which is around growth. Okay. Now, growth is really around planning and project management, productivity, and personal branding, right? And these are areas where it helps you get better and better at what you do, so that way your future plans are on a stronger foundation and are able to execute and grow effectively. And this really centers around project management and time management, how you manage your time. This is the reason why I talked about, the people around you can either make or break you, right? And so here's what I do, and I'm sharing this behind the scenes. This is something that, again, is a part of my personal branding accelerator around project management. This is how I manage my lifestyle as it stands today. My core business, which is the one that brings me the highest income, I don't play around with that. 50 to 75% of my time and energy goes in managing that. My personal brand business, because yes, I turned my personal brand into a business. I did that. And that was probably, again, something that every one of you need to do, which is my expertise, my experiences, my times that. So that's speaking engagements, my content that I sell online, all that, my social media profiles, monetizing that and turning into a business. I spent 15 to 20% of my time on that. Now, some years, last year, I spent a bigger time frame on my personal brand business because I was trying to really crystallize everything into a package and create new systems and processes for my personal brand business. But usually my personal brand business is around 15%. Then I have my serial income streams, right? So these are my new income streams that are not my core business, but they bring business. And I spend 10 to 25% of my time throughout the year around those business streams. So one of my businesses, I have a media company, I have a real estate company, and now I have a agriculture company, right? So these are generating income flow. So I make sure to manifest and really think about my goals and strategies around that. And that's in terms of my time, how I balance my time. So let's say if I have 24 hours in a day, if I have 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of work, probably like 5 hours of that work is spent towards my core business, 3 hours, 1 hour is personal brand, 1 hour is my serial income streams, and probably 30 minutes towards my project income stream. So you can see in a 24-hour cycle how that expands into a week, into a month, into a quarter, how I manifest that, right? And project income streams, I think each and every one of you, no matter what, always, always, always dedicate at least 5 to 10% of your time in a year to experimenting with different income streams, different ideas, different growth areas, because sometimes these experiences become core businesses. My core business today came from an experiment that happened 7 years ago, right? And so don't sleep on experimentation. If you don't have experimentation as part of your project planning every single year, start that this year. You'll thank me for this later on. So this is how I apply my time every single year. And how that breaks down to the productivity. So now this is how I project manage my time. I have spreadsheets and trackers to track each one of these areas. Productivity wise, 75% of my activities are managing my business. So my business model, making sure like, what I'm my audit, my automation, I don't depend on certain things, make sure that this is capital full. 25% of my activities is managing my environment. So my daily schedule, not scheduling meetings on Mondays and Fridays, making my core activities on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, not scheduling things before 11 a.m., right? Unless it's extremely important on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and keeping my core business activities between 11 and 3 p.m. because 3 p.m. I got to pick up my kids from school, right? These things are really, really important. I have something called my external stupidity funnel system. This is where I make sure I manage the people that come into my life. People are very narcissistic nowadays, very entitled, very egotistical, very selfish. I make sure to block stupidity out of my system. So I don't take calls anymore from people I don't know. I let people email me first. I screen them before I engage with them. I only take calls from family, friends, and close advisors because I realize that people nowadays have changed. And until people show me that, they are coming with positive energy, that's how I screen them, right? I don't check my phone first thing in the morning. That was probably the hardest habit to break, right? I do my agenda first. I do my daily manifestations first, where I manifest my goals and I stay out loud. I have a positive mindset and dictate my priorities. That's something I do to be productive on a daily basis. So again, going back, right? I have my project management process. I have my daily productivity process. This is how I manage my time, right? And finally, when it comes to growth sessions, these checklists, I highly suggest you go on my website and sign up for these free checklists. Helps me synthesize all this plan into my personal brand. So I have my checklist for beginners, experienced, and pros, where I literally make sure it's a step-aside guide to make sure that I'm executing on things that really help build my personal brand, which indirectly manages my businesses, right? And so for the sake of time, I won't go into a deep dive into what this looks like on a regular basis, because again, this is part of my personal branding accelerator program. But every single month, I have 3 different bucket goals that we talked about: my wealth goals, my growth goals, and my health goals. And I write my priorities for the month and make sure that I'm executing on that on a daily basis. And every single month, I usually try to step into challenges. So in my template that I have here, I have a personal brand challenge that I kick off on January every single year. right? And so these are ways of making sure that you're programming yourself to be proactive and tracking your goals on a regular basis. So with that said, now that we went over these 3 buckets, I want to now conclude on final things that you could do when it comes to planning your year. So what is next? So we went over a lot of content. We went over all the different strategies and secrets that I've used to plan out my year, the templates that I've used, the strategies and secrets that I use to manifest these goals over the past couple of years. So what's next, right? How do we go from planning to execution? And one thing that I always tell people, going from planning to getting things done requires you to be, again, in the right mind frame, right mindset, and really have the right tools and resources to really manifest a lot of the things that you want to do in your life. And if you really got a lot of value out of this 1 hour session with me personally, coming live indirectly with you, imagine what a full 4 weeks of live sessions, activities, spreadsheets, and templates and email scripts that I've created to execute on all of this that I share with you, what it would do for you. Because I would love to like interact with people on a regular basis. And of course, with doing these programs and initiatives, I love to help give you a roadmap of how I've done this, right? And so one thing that I would say is that you need a program that brings your career aspirations to life. And I highly suggest that if you're ready to do things differently in 2024, work with me. I would love to engage with you guys on an individual basis through my personal brand accelerator program. So if you're in, I want to take a couple minutes to share with you what that looks like. And again, if you're not in for a new year, log off. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for hearing me out and learning and manifesting all the different ideas that you want to do for the year. Thank you for joining us. But if you really want me to help you and share with you my spreadsheets, my work templates, and pretty much you see how vulnerable and open I am with what I've done and how I've done it. This is how I am. This is just how I show up. This is how I engage. And I would love to spend the whole month of January into February in doing this with you over the next couple of weeks through my personal brand accelerator program. Last year, I launched this with a pilot, a few people in my community. It was great. And as stated before, because I'm a serial entrepreneur managing different businesses, I cannot do this on a regular basis. So I do it once a year. And this year I'm doing it during the month of January into February. So it starts next week. Actually, we kick off the personal branding accelerator program. And for 4 weeks, this is where I go over 10 different sessions. So I help you understand your personal brand fundamentals, help you create a personal brand foundation, find your value proposition, because some of you are doing great work in your career, great work in your business, but you don't really know how to like show up in a room and have your value proposition. I help you create that. And then I show you a framework and a funnel formula to create ways for people to find you, right? One of the biggest things you could do is like you exist. Some people post on social media, but they don't know how to create a framework to create a value proposition for people to find them online at events, to really engage with them. Once I help you create that framework and I personalize that framework for you, then I help you create digital products. And this one, if you don't know how to do this right now, for those of you who are still on the call, I'm telling you, you're going to need to figure this out. Okay. We live again in a digital first world. You need to know how to create digital products that are passive in nature, that really do 2 things. It creates a brand awareness for you, for people to respect you and engage with you. So it builds clout and credibility. But second, it's able to give you new income streams. Remember, we talked about this earlier. Every single year, if you haven't accomplished 8 different streams of income, you need to be able to work on that every single year. And creating a product suite with your brand is a great way to do that. So the first 5 sessions is all around creating products that create value, that create a brand recognition and credibility, where you get speaking engagements and media outlets. Like people ask you, how did you get speaking engagement, Christine? How did you get into media outlets? How did you get these invitations, these awards, all these different resources and things that I was able to accomplish over 10 years because I did these 5 things. Once you're able to do that, then this is the part that I feel like a lot of people don't teach. And these are the parts where I light up because it's the hard part, but it's what I learned how to do. And these are 3 skills that are crucial in the digital world. Marketing. I'm going to teach you how to market yourself. Copywriting, webinar funnels, all these different things that help you market and brand yourself. I will show you how to market and execute on that. I will share with you my content strategy, how I post on social media across all different sites. The one core site that I double down on is LinkedIn. For those of you who know me, LinkedIn, I have close to 40,000 people following me on LinkedIn. And I make money from that. I will show you how to market yourself. I will show you how to create a sales plan, because once you turn your personal brand into a business, right, you need to create a sales strategy. So I will show you how to create a sales plan strategy to help you, okay, with a tracker, okay, if you're marketing these different things about yourself, speaking engagements, products that you've created, like, templates that you created for people to be able to grow and learn, how you generating sales, because you got to make money from this, right? And finally, I'll help you create a system around that, because one thing that people always say, Christine, you've automated so much in your life. What is the operating plan that you do to create an operating plan around your personal brand? I will share with you that operating plan process. And then by far a great bonus is teach you project management and time management, and end with a business plan for you to be able to execute on that personal brand strategy. Like I said, this personal brand accelerator program starts next week. Obviously, you'll have access to all the live recordings for life, because you'll have a digital course dashboard that you can access. You'll have live sessions with other people. And I think it gets really intimate, where you get to learn from each other and learn from other people who are also building and scaling and monetize their personal brand. And I've had really influential people like consultants, business owners, career chefs, right? Top athletes join my personal brand accelerator programs. And I mainly target women of color, women who are really doing it really well, want to get to the next level. And of course, at the end of the day, you're going to be live with me, right? I'm going to be on these calls with you, engaging with you, and sharing how to do this on a regular basis. Of course, you have the templates and email scripts and all the worksheets that I use, including the templates that we discussed today. You will have access to immediately. But also, I will give you access to my personal brand planner for 2024. And that planner has everything that we discussed today, from the vision board to the goal planner to the health, wealth, and growth planner, my calendar structure, my personal brand checklist and challenges. Everything will be there, all inclusive of the personal brand accelerator program. So with that said, if you learned a lot over the past hour and you want to really engage this gear and really tie everything together and show up like you've never done before, let's work together. Let's do this year. Let's start the year on a high note. Let's start here with the right action steps. Like I said before, beyond these 10 sessions, because I know everyone's launching a digital course right now. So you might feel like, oh, this is just another thing that someone's selling. No, I have a reputation for going in. I have a reputation for giving my best and giving my all. Those of you who are on a call, you know me personally over the past decade. I don't play games with sharing strategies. I share it all. And also, sometimes you need a bouncing board, right? Maybe you're trying to launch a new product this year. Maybe you're trying to get more speaking engagement. Maybe you're trying to show up differently at the workplace and you're trying to figure it out. Let me figure it out with you and show you what I've done, because again, not only have I executed on these things personally in my career journey, I deal with thousands of people on a regular basis, y'all. On a literally all the events. You guys know that with GSC, my global startup ecosystem company, we host close to 100 events a year, both workshops, webinars, and conferences. So I interact with a lot of different stakeholders. And so I've done this on a regular basis. So I know what I'm doing, right? So if you want to show up differently in 2024, here's your opportunity. Of course, those of you who join me live from this session will get 50% off for the next 48 hours, and then it goes back to its regular pricing. I'm not saying this because, oh, I want you to get it quick. It's because I usually, every single person who sign up for my personal branding accelerator, I go on their LinkedIn profiles and I immediately start with auditing their digital presence. So when they start the program, I dive right in and start giving you feedback points and show you areas of growth and weaknesses with how you show up online. Yes, that's how personal I get with your brand strategy during these next couple of weeks. And of course, personal branding accelerator means not only do I help you manifest and monetize your personal brand, I automatically show you how to actually create and generate business lines of opportunity through your personal brand that can manifest into bigger brands over time, because I've done it over and over and over again. So if you want access to this program and want access to be able to join me next week as we kick off and start 2024 right, Let's do this. So without further ado, thank you so much for joining me for this 2024 planning session. I know many of you guys have had a great opportunity to join me for this session. I hope that this was a great opportunity for you to grow, learn, and execute on your goals. Again, I will be following up via email on all the questions and comments on this session. So stay tuned for those of you who emailed and sent questions. I know we're out of time, but thank you again for joining me today. I look forward to joining you next week for the Personal Branding Accelerator program. And of course, I wish you all the very best. Keep thriving, keep growing, keep trying to accomplish your goals. Remember your why, remember why you're doing this. And I cannot wait to see you guys on the other side of this year to tell me your stories, your journeys, and everything that you've done to manifest greatness in yourself and the people around you. So best of luck. It was truly an honor. Thank you so much for joining me today. See you all soon.